made that play, and then he'd stop. And he'd say, no, Turge, that wasn't your fault. And you're like, oh, thank God, he's going to get off me. And he'd be like, no, Turge, it was my fault for playing you. that would rip your heart out. You never got that, did you? Chris Brown, we called him. I'll take you inside the locker room. 1988, Chris was on the national championship team, had a tremendous game, and we're in there at halftime, and Coach Brown's gone through the X's and O's, and he starts giving the speech, and he had lost the championship game when he was at UCLA, and they were playing in Indianapolis, and they lost to Darrell Griffith in Louisville, which was about a 60-mile trip from Indianapolis. And he started telling the story about after the game, he was sitting on the bus, he's telling the guys, he's looking, their eyes are all glued to him, and he's saying, you know, I watched Louisville and Darrell Griffith win the national championship, and after the game I saw all the cars driving back to Louisville and how great it was. And of course we were playing that championship game in Kansas City, not far from Lawrence, where we could all just see all the people driving back to Lawrence that night. And then he looked at Danny and he said, Danny, Darrell Griffith was the best player on the floor that night, and he didn't let his team lose. And he said, Danny, make sure you take care of business tonight and get it done. And then, of course, Danny had 31 and 19, and we won the game. And it was just, I mean, I was fired up, and I was in streak and obviously in a suit and coat, but it was just one of the best halftime speeches I ever been a part of. But Pipe, how did that speech make you feel when he was just talking about Danny? But you know, I heard he's mumbling over here. Pipe was 5 for 5 in that game, and had to guard the criminals all night. So the sheriff locked him down. So another quick Larry Brown story. I was lucky enough to be in the NBA for 1 year. It was just a tremendous year of my life. And I was back with Larry Brown, a much older, milder Larry Brown. My wife never met Coach Brown when he coached me, and she loves him to death. Thinks he's the greatest thing ever. And so we're at halftime in Philadelphia, and we were down 25 to Toronto, and Toronto wasn't very good. We were probably like 6 and 20 at the time, if that, and we weren't very good. And if you know anything about Philadelphia fans, they would boo a blind kid in an Easter egg hunt. So they booed us right off the floor. And Coach Brown, he's a very smart guy. I didn't realize that when we were playing for him, but he's a very smart guy. And he walks in the locker room and he looks at Allen Iverson. And he says, Alan, he goes, where are you among point guards in the league? And Alan goes, I'm the best, coach. I'm absolutely the best. So he goes, all right. And we had Jimmy Jackson at the 2. We had Jerry Stackhouse at the 2. And he says, Jerry, where are you among 2 guards in the league? He says, I'm second best behind Jordan, coach. I said, all right. So we got the best point guard, second best. Then he looks at Jimmy Jackson. And he says, Jimmy, where are you as 3-man in this league? And Jimmy says, I'm an all-star, coach. He says, well, I got the best point guard, the second best 2 guard, and an all-star at the 3. He goes, I must be the worst coach in the world if we're down 25 to Toronto. And he'd never seen the egos drop out of these NBA players like they did. They looked straight down at their feet, and you had Derek Coleman, who was a bigger turd, sitting in the back laughing and getting on these guys. So you had to con these fellas, and they played a little bit harder for them after that. But I've had obviously a great life. I went on to coach a little bit. I got some great Ronnie Kellogg stories. I'm going to only share one because I got my high school buddies back then. They've heard it so many times. I don't want to have to hear it again. And Patty, we're not going to get any money out of that table, by the way. When I heard it was a free breakfast, I knew they'd show up. But we're playing Memphis at home. Memphis stayed the day, and they were ranked number 3, and it was a Saturday, and Ronnie Kellogg was hot, and he was playing well. There was about 10 seconds to go in the game, and we're up. And we have to get a stop to win the game, and we're talking, and Coach Brown's giving us instructions, and Coach Brown always used to say at the end, any questions? And Ronnie raises his hand and says, yeah, Coach, is the hot tub fixed yet? It's a true story. Guy was unbelievable. But being in this area real quickly, obviously I'm really proud being a former Jayhawk, what KU basketball continues to do year in and year out. I had to leave A&M because I couldn't beat them while I was there, and I couldn't take that, to be quite honest with you. And but I talked to Bill the other day, told him I was going to be in Topeka speaking, and he told me he's going to have 8 freshmen and 4 seniors. And I said, well, that's probably only going to be 30 wins for you then, Bill, next year. So he just does a tremendous job, and it's great. My son, for the first time, my son's really competitive. I don't know where he gets it. And he's 12, but he doesn't like KU for some reason. Well, it's because we never beat him. And when we played at A&M, but for the first time, he acted like he might like KU when we were at a wedding this weekend in Lawrence. K-State basketball, I know there's just a few K-State fans in here. I think Bruce Weber's a tremendous hire. Bruce has been a friend of mine for a long time. I love Frank, and you're going to miss Frank. He did a tremendous job. Continue with Bob Huggins started, but I think Bruce has won 70% of his games, and if you look at people around the country, not many people have done that. And he's just a great coach and a great guy, and he'll do a great job at K-State. Well, that was hard to say. And my Shockers will continue to do great. I have a lot of pride in Wichita State basketball and what we built and what Greg's continue to build down there. College basketball, I think, is in great shape. They're trying to Calipari-proof it. There's a lot of he's the Jerry Tarkanian. There's a lot of rules coming in, trying to get rid of Calipari. I'm hoping he leaves and goes pro. I'm recruiting against him for a couple really good players. But there's a lot of rules, and he's just trying to fight, and that's new academic standards, which is going to make it tougher for kids to play. And then they've also put in, they deregulate all these phone call rules, because there was a guy in Texas down there in a green school, couldn't follow the rules, made 900 and some illegal phone calls. Can you read between the lines? But so now we got unlimited phone calls, and I can't let that one go. But anyway, we're in Maryland. We love it. We love it in Maryland. And I know we've talked about Hayden a lot. When my wife and I got married, we made a deal. She was a public school teacher. We were going to raise our kids Catholic, but we were going to send them to a public school. And we did that up until we moved to Maryland. And we've found a school and a church that's just off the charts. It's welcomed us. My kids are happy. My wife's extremely happy, which makes things a lot easier for me. And it's the closest thing, you know, that I've found since Most Pure Heart and Hayden growing up. So it's just been a tremendous thing for us, and we just love it there. And Maryland's a big-time place, and they love their basketball coaches at Maryland. But let me tell you how big-time I am at Maryland. Not as big as Pipe is, but so I'm at a golf tournament a couple weeks ago. It's a fundraiser. We do a lot of these things this time of year. And I'm at this fundraiser, and Gary Williams was for you don't know, Gary Williams was the former coach. He won a national championship at Maryland, great coach. So we finished our golf round, we put our clubs in the trunk, and Gary's in the parking lot, so I walk up to him, we're talking, I'm having some academic issues, and I'm talking about the academic issues. And this guy comes up, and he stumbled a little bit, he's had a few cocktails. And he says, he walks up to Coach Williams, he says, oh, Coach Williams, I just love you. You know, thanks for everything you did at Maryland. And he said, you mind if I take a picture with you? And Coach said, no. And the guy looked over at me and he said, hey, buddy, will you take this picture of me and Coach? Had no idea. But we only won 17 games, so it's probably good he didn't know who I was this year. We love the ACC.